All right, so now we're going to move on to something a little harder. We're going to work on things with curves. So I am going to create, actually, you know what? I'm going to move it over a little bit because we got to talk about things that are directly above and below the vanishing point tend to look a little bit funny. So for learning purposes, I'm going to move it over a little bit more, and we'll deal with that later. And I'm also going to draw it a little darker so you can see it. All right, so it's not perfect, but that's fine. It's my letter O. So what I'm going to do, if I have a curve, I take my ruler, I place it on my vanishing point, and I swing the ruler over until it hits the side of my curve. And then I'm going to draw the line from that, my orthogonal from that point to my vanishing point. And you do not have to do this once you have more practice, and I'll probably stop doing it pretty soon myself. So from the letter to the vanishing point. So that's pretty much how you do the outside. Now on the inside, what I always suggest is that you take where this hit here and you create a 90-degree angle with it across the letter. That's how you know approximately what you will see on the other side. And then it'll make more sense as we go. So remember, this is your front line, and so the back line needs to be parallel, so that means that it needs to match. One thing people tend to do is they make this too sharp. I would try to curve that as much as possible. And then we went at a 90-degree angle, and so I'm trying to do the parallel on the inside as well. So there's no points for us to look at, so we have to do that ruler trick, and then that transfers over to if you're going to do cursive or any kind of other fancy stuff. So then there's my letter O, and again, I could probably still clean it up a little bit. Now let's say I get a really weird shape, so I want to do, I don't know, let's just get crazy. What in the world am I going to do with that? Well, we're going to take our time and we're going to work through it. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to swing it until it hits the first part, draw my line. Now I'm not going to draw it all the way. Also try to think in terms of just common sense. If it's up here, we know that it's above the horizon line, so we know that we'll see the bottom, we won't see the top. If we were to pick a random point on here and draw from that point to our vanishing point, we got to ask ourselves, would it go through the letter? Kind of like we do with the corners, but this is a little bit more organic. So we got that first line. Now I'm going to go over to the next piece, the next curve. Make sure it's lined up with your vanishing point and where that ruler hits the curve, and then I'm going to draw that line. And then I'll keep going further still until I hit the next one. And let's see what else we got going on. So I'm thinking here, if you are ever questioning something like, okay, so what's going to go on here? Think to yourself, if I made a random point, so I'm just going to throw some points in here. If I take any of these points and I try to bring it back to the vanishing point, am I going to see it? So from here, yes, you would a little bit. Because it doesn't go directly into the letter, we can stop once it hits the letter. If we go here, not really. No, we wouldn't see it. No, we wouldn't see it. We wouldn't see that. We wouldn't see that one, or that one, or that one. None of those. But once we get to about here, we start to see it again. So then if we're taking our ruler and we're doing the same thing, we're swinging it, I'm going to come in from the other side now. And work my way through the other side. So first I hit here, make that line. Next, I hit right here, so I'll draw, that'll be a little line. Okay, next I've got this little nubbin right here. And try to make sure that you have them lined up on both the vanishing point and your shape. Okay, so far so good. Now I've got a little bit more because we were wondering about this. We said before, well, right here it starts to show again. Well, absolutely, so we'll see something right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swing my ruler until it hits and draw my line. Now this isn't an exact science. It's a little bit of finagling here and there. So if my front line is parallel to my back line, this is my front line here. And so I'm going to make my back line parallel to it. But we know that we're going to see here, and if we pick these points, we know that we'll see something in here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and make that line parallel and kind of make it vanish here where I know I'm not going to see it anymore. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit so you can see it a little better. And there's that part. That's probably the hardest part right there. Now we've got over here, thinking the same thing. All right, I wouldn't see any of these points, so I'm going to make my back line parallel to my front line. Kind of finish it off where I would no longer see those points. So for the outside, a lot of the times it's going to be a little bit easier than when you're working on these little inside pieces. But I think personally that it's well worth it to go the extra mile, because then your project looks really cool. All right, so here's my front line. My back line needs to be parallel. And once we get to about here, we're not going to see, so if I'm just picking points, if I pick here, I will kind of see it, so this line will go to here. Here I'd see it, here I'd see it, here I'd see it, and so I know that this curve will be right there. Now if I'm picking random points here, I wouldn't see any of this because it goes directly into my shape. And we already checked here, so we've got that figured out, so we need to make the front line and the back line parallel. Now let's get over here and see what goes on. Because if we pick these points, we're going to see a lot of it. Sometimes I'll even draw it a little bit because it kind of helps to visualize it. So once we get to here, we no longer see it. So right where it ended here, we have to start making that line parallel and finish it off here. Oh, I don't know if you can hear Dolly Parton in the background. I love that song, Jolene. And then here, front line, and it actually probably ends a little sooner than that. But, you know, once you get the hang of it and you're just thinking too, you have that knowledge, you know that, again, this is above your horizon line, so you're going to see the bottom of it. This is the bottom of this shape. We're not going to see the top. We know that. So if for some reason I had stuff over here, I'd know that it was wrong, just based on that information. So now I have my finished shape, that weird shape. So what happens if we have something directly above or below the vanishing point? Well, let's make another O, and then I'm going to do a T up here. I already did a T, but you'll get the point. Now, for this one, if we're checking our points, our corners, I should say, corner, okay, we'd see that one. This one, no, we're not going to see it. This one, so meaning this one here, we will see. This one we don't because it goes right into the letter. This one, yes, we'd see it. We would not see this one. we would see this one. And we would not see either one of these. So it can look kind of weird because, oh shoot, sorry, I'm off camera. So just real quick here, you would see this one, this one, this one, this one, but these go directly back into the letter, and so do these. So you'd ignore those. So then all we would need to do is make our front line parallel to our back line. And that's it. So it's going to look a little bit different if it's directly above or below. So now with our letter O, I'm going to swing my ruler until it hits. Draw my line. Swing my ruler until it hits. Draw my line. Okay, now we have where it hit here, make a 45. This pretty much goes for letter O's or like what else? Lowercase g's, anything that has like this kind of circular situation in the middle. You just make that 90-degree angle. You can eyeball it. You don't have to get really crazy specific, but then we know that these are the points essentially to save ourselves time that we would see, and then we try to make that parallel, but we want it to kind of slide into the inside too. And then back here we're just gonna make the front line and the back line parallel and erase our excess, and that's all you gotta do for that one. Looks a little weird here. I could mess with it more and all that good stuff. Remember, like I said, try to make it look a little more curved. All right, so that's that for that.